Okay, so this session it'll be a mixture of a presentation, but I'll also be flicking over to the Quiss internal intranet just to show you a couple of examples of things that we'll talk about in the session. So we're going to have a look at the sort of the concepts of intranets and their benefits, the uses, some best practice for implementation. So understanding intranets, it's crucial for organizations to enhance internal communication and collaboration. So we'll have a look at understanding intranets, the benefits, uses of intranets, and as I'd mentioned, some best practices for implementing and building a new intranet. So we're going to start with looking at understanding intranets. So what's the definition and the purpose? So an intranet, it's a secure internal network, not to be confused with the internet. So it's an internal secure network. The whole purpose generally of an intranet is information sharing and collaboration within your organization. It's also about enhancing employee connectivity. So as well as information sharing, it's also about staff feeling connected, especially where you've got remote workers, for example. So the use of an intranet gives you a central location where everybody can access and share information. Now, intranets, they had a little bit of a boom, sort of late 90s, early 2000. They then sort of fairly quickly declined. There's a variety of reasons why. Mainly, it was a poor user experience. So they were often quite clunky. The interface was outdated. They weren't particularly easy to navigate or search. And very often, they certainly weren't mobile friendly. A lack of engagement. It was very much a case of a one-way communication, top down. There's no personalization in there, social features, and most people found that after a little while there was just no value in using it. Other reasons, tools were fragmented. So intranets traditionally, often they weren't integrated with other internal tools, for example, with email or calendar, and certainly with the advent of things like Teams. Content, very often static and outdated. Often the intranet content was down to one person who often they're bogged down with doing their day job. So content very rarely updated. There's no sort of ownership or governance for keeping the information fresh. Limited accessibility. So very often you could only access it if you were in the office or via VPN. And as I'd mentioned, it's not inclusive. If you're a remote or a field worker, generally you just couldn't even access the company's intranet. So key components of a modern intranet. So content management, so for organizing, storing, searching for and finding information, helping with productivity. It's a communication tool. So it facilitates collaboration, information sharing among employees. As I say, it's a central hub for sharing and finding information. With modern SharePoint, document sharing capabilities, so we can share, we can access files, but you can also collaborate on files within there. Modern SharePoint, it's a much more user-friendly interface, much easier to navigate and search for the information that you're looking for. So differences between intranets, extranets, and the internet. So as I'd mentioned, intranets, it's an internal private network, and it's exclusive to that organization. As I've mentioned, the sole purpose is it enhances internal communication. So an extranet extends access to this information to selected external users, for example, partners or clients. Again, it gives you a controlled environment for collaborating. The difference being it lets you collaborate with external people. And then the internet, as most people will know, a global network. It's open to absolutely everybody for widespread communication and information sharing. So we'll have a look at some of the benefits of an intranet. So as I've mentioned, improved communication. So it provides people with easy access to information, updates that they need. It also massively reduces miscommunication. So updates and announcements are in one central place. Rather than sending out an all staff email that some people will have missed, then you're relying on word of mouth and people misinterpreting what's being said. With an intranet, the information is published to everybody at the same time and they can go in and review it. It gives you an informed workforce. So it leads to better collaboration and productivity. Overall, it fosters a more positive work environment. It gives you enhanced collaboration. So it gives you access to shared documents. It may be that you've got project management tools. It allows people to work together, gives you a stronger sense of teamwork. Also, they can help to accelerate project completion. So by having a central location for people to share information, access documents, collaborate on files, it lets people reach their goals faster. It increases productivity. So you can streamline internal processes through intranets. It reduces time wasted on admin. As I say, quick information. Somebody needs to find a particular process or a policy. If they're stored on the intranet, people can quickly find them, help them make decisions. And it enhances your core task focus. So rather than people wasting time searching for information on policies, processes, company information, it means they can find it quickly and easily, and they can concentrate on their core tasks or effectively doing their day job. Intranets, they can also be a feedback platform. So again, it fosters this culture of open communication. Modern intranets, they're not a one-way feed. You can use them for employee recognition. So you can post positive news. It also allows social interactions. So again, it enhances teamwork and also collaborating across departments. So the uses of intranets. You can use it, knowledge management. So a knowledge repository, access to important documents such as policies, procedures, also preserving institutional knowledge. So helps you preserve the institutional knowledge within your organization. Now, at this point, I'm going to dip out of this presentation and I'm going to flip over to the Quiss intranet just to show you a few examples of where we've used this internally. So for the Quiss intranet, we've called it Q Hub. So as I'd mentioned, we can share ideas. So we've created links within here. So all staff members, if they've got an idea, they can share them with the management team. Similarly, if somebody's got concerns, they can raise concerns. We've built in links to our HR system. We can see the organizational functional overview. Then we've got links to commonly used internal documents. So if somebody needs a change control form, a library of Quiss standard documents. So with the Quiss standard documents, rather than individuals having their own versions of document templates, they're all stored in one central location that everybody can access them from. The beauty of storing them within an intranet is you've got control. There's only one version of the truth for these documents, and they can easily be updated. They're published to everybody. Details on the rotors, stores, new suppliers. We've also got things like forms for booking meeting rooms. So rather than people just booking a meeting room in an Outlook calendar, this allows people to book a meeting room because they may also want refreshments to go along with their meeting. There's links to the Quiss website, and if they need it, we can get to the employer's liability certificate. So just some simple examples of how it's not a one-way communication process. So we can share ideas, raise concerns, etc. Access to standard internal documents. We've then got a news feed. So the Quiss intranet, the content isn't simply controlled by one person. So as I move down, the news feeds from various different areas of the intranet. We've then got links for industry-wide news. We can put in things like LinkedIn activity. Not everybody in an organization may be on LinkedIn. If they're not, they might not even follow your organization. You can publish LinkedIn activity so people can see what's happening. We've got links to Quiss events that are happening. We've then got links to different departments and areas of the business. So business development and marketing, internal business news, details of charity and fundraising events. Other areas that we've got within here that you can build into your intranet, for example, within compliance. So if I go into compliance, if somebody needs to see one of our ISO 27001, 9001 policies, they're in the compliance area of the intranet. So each of these links opens up our particular policy document. People can read through it. We've then built in a system where people can then acknowledge that they have read it and confirm whether it is or it isn't applicable to them. So what we don't need to do is to be printing off policies and going around and getting people to read them, sign them off, and then having to store those in people's HR records. It can be done electronically through the intranet. So let's just jump back out to home. We've also got links to the Quiss Staff Digital Academy. Now, this is our internal training portal. So if I open up our Digital Academy, so this is effectively all of our internal training documentation, videos, etc. So within our internal training, so things like telephony, our help desk system, health and safety courses. There's even an IT induction for new starters. There's HR courses, all of our Office 365 materials, 365 apps. So again, from our intranet, everybody in the business can access all of our internal training materials, as well as new joiners. So let's jump back out to the intranet. Other areas that we can include, so for example, procurement. The procurement team look after this. Stores look after their own area. There's a social committee, sales, health and safety. So each area is looked after by that particular department or by a group. It's not down to one person. So the content is always being refreshed. Okay, let's just jump out of here, back over to our presentation. Okay. So as I'd mentioned, other areas that you can use it, HR functions. So onboarding new staff, it can streamline that process. As we've seen, we have an IT induction. So you can have an area for new starters. So where new starters, that they might need to read policies and read procedures, they can be stored in the intranet. Makes it much easier. People aren't having to have documents printed out, signed off. They can go to the particular HR area and they can go through and confirm. As I'd mentioned, policy libraries, exactly as we've used. All of policies, if a policy is updated, it only needs to be changed in one place and it can be published. Easily searchable. So the modern SharePoint, the search functionality is really powerful. And as we've mentioned, employees can digitally sign and acknowledge that they've read policies, which massively cuts down on people having to go and find a particular document, print it off, sign it, and send it over to a HR team, for example, to confirm that they have read an internal policy or procedure. So we'll have a look at some best practices for the implementation of intranets. The idea of these is that hopefully they ensure that your intranet remains effective, user-friendly, and up to date. So the initial planning and design, a really important point is assessing what people actually need. So very often it's a good idea to put together a small working party from different departments as to what do the different areas of the business need from an intranet. What information do they need to share with people? Do they need document storage? So putting together a working group from a variety of different departments does mean everybody within your organization has a say. Defining clear objectives. So you need to define the objectives of what are you trying to produce from your intranet. It's vital that all of those stakeholders are all aligned, and also put some thought into layout, because if it's a confusing, jumbled layout, people are not going to use it. So it is a case of put some thought into how easy is it to navigate? Is it intuitive? Can I find information quickly and easily? If you can't, it goes back to that old thing of the old-fashioned intranets of people just don't engage with it because it's a bit clunky. I can't find the information that I want. It's not easy to navigate around. Usability. So it's a really important that people can easily navigate around and access the information that they need to find. And also getting feedback within your intranet. It's important to have some way of people being able to feedback. It may be that they feedback on ideas for new things that they want to see, or it may be that they've got concerns or something that doesn't work properly. But having regular feedback just means you can constantly refine the content that's being published onto your intranet. And one of the most important ones, the maintenance and governance. So regular maintenance is absolutely crucial. As I say, if not, the information, it becomes static, it goes stale. People they don't see the point of looking at it. So your regular maintenance, it links to this bottom one of the content management teams. So by giving, for example, on departmental, each department may have their own area, in which case designate a team to look after their own area. You would want somebody with an overarching view of everything, but by making departments responsible for their own information, they only need to update a small part, but also they're the ones in the know. If something changes in a particular department that is going to impact the rest of the business, they're going to know before the rest of the business does. So it is important that you have, wherever possible, a team of people who are managing the content, not just one individual person who has to try and do this alongside their day job. Okay. So in conclusion, what does an intranet bring? So it's enhanced communication. So the idea is it promotes communication among people. It reduces barriers. It's instant information sharing. It improves collaboration. So you can enhance collaboration across teams. It increases productivity and innovation. It gives you a central point for employee engagement. So it gives you a more connected culture. It also allows you to, it also, with using best practice, implementing an intranet isn't as difficult as you would think. They then work effectively going forward. It gives you a really valuable workplace resource. They can simply be made as the homepage for everybody's browser. So if somebody opens up the browser, the intranet's there. But the important thing is keeping the content up to date, refreshing content. Don't let it go stale. if anybody is interested in building an intranet, you don't actually need super technical SharePoint skills. If all you're wanting to do is create a few pages and share some information, certainly get in touch with us. We can help. On the flip side of that, you can set up your intranet with content management, with a whole raft of automation, policies, data retention policies, etc. So they can be as simple or as complex as you want them to be. But once the intranet has been built, adding that news and information is very, very straightforward. So you don't need to have high technical skills to be able to post a new news article on your intranet. Okay, that is pretty much the intranets. Is a much shorter session than usual. Have we got any questions on anything that we've covered or anything that we haven't covered?
I can't see any questions in the chat at the minute, James. Can you tell us a little bit about next week's session then? Because it's kind of linked, isn't it, to this?
It is, yes. So next week's session, if I just jump back over to the intranet, next week's session is more around, if I just jump into one of these, the things like the automation, etc. So if I use our compliance, around how you can build the automation into things like, I've got a list of policies on my intranet. I want to be able to build a process where somebody can go in, they can confirm that they've read and understood it. Is it applicable to their job role? So next week's session is around how you can build in that automation. So it's creating sort of workflows off the back of this, around using other 365 apps. So things like using Microsoft Forms and automating the content of those once they're submitted. Also things like document approval processes. So for example, again, policies is a good one, that you can set up within your intranet, that there needs to be an approval process. So somebody wants to deploy a new policy. It's not just a case of they just go and drop it into the folder and everybody in the business would see it. You can set up automated approval processes. So they create the new document. It will then run through a process to notify people that a new document's been added. It needs to be checked, and it won't actually be published to all of the staff until somebody has reviewed it and confirmed that it is actually correct and it's fit for purpose.